Think about this for a second. Someone texts you, "Hey, I'll come over tomorrow." And in that one single moment, something shifts inside you. Not excitement, not happiness, fear. A quiet, creeping panic that starts in your chest and slowly takes over your entire brain. You start thinking, is the house clean enough? What will I cook? What will we even talk about? What if they judge me? What if something goes wrong? And the guest hasn't even arrived yet. If this sounds familiar, you are not alone. Millions of people experience a very real, very intense anxiety just at the thought of someone coming to their home. And today, we are going to break down exactly why this happens, because the psychology behind it is deeper than most people realize. Stay with me until the end, because the last part of this video might genuinely change the way you see yourself. When someone panics before a guest arrives, they are almost never actually worried about the guest. They are worried about themselves. Psychologists call this self-focused anxiety. It means your fear is not really about what the other person will do. It is about how you will be perceived, judged, and evaluated. Your brain essentially turns the guest into an audience, and you become the performance. Suddenly, your home is not just a home. It is a reflection of who you are as a person. Your couch, your dishes, the smell of your kitchen, the color of your walls. All of it feels like evidence of your worth. This is why people with guest anxiety often spend hours cleaning before someone arrives. Not because the house is dirty, but because they cannot tolerate the idea of being seen as someone whose house is dirty. The cleaning is not about cleanliness. It is about control over judgment, and that need to control how others see you. That is the core engine behind all of this panic. Everything else we talk about today connects back to this one root. Now let us talk about where this actually comes from, because it does not appear out of nowhere. For most people who panic before guests arrive, this anxiety has roots in childhood. Think about the home you grew up in. Were guests treated as something stressful? Did your parents rush around cleaning and preparing in a panic every time someone was coming? Did you grow up in a home where appearances mattered enormously? Where what the neighbors thought, or what relatives said carried enormous weight? If yes, then you were essentially trained to associate guests with pressure. Your nervous system learned early that having someone over means being evaluated, and that lesson stayed with you into adulthood. This is called conditioned anxiety. You did not choose it. It was installed in you through repeated experiences that told your brain, guests equal danger, guests equal judgment, guests equal the possibility of being found lacking, and your brain, being the incredibly loyal protector that it is, now tries to prepare you for that danger every single time someone says they are coming over. The interesting thing about conditioned anxiety is that it operates completely below the level of logic. You can know, consciously and rationally, that your friend does not care whether your floor is mopped. You can tell yourself 100 times that nobody is coming to judge you, and yet the panic still comes, because it is not coming from your logical mind. It is coming from a much older, much deeper part of you that learned this lesson before you even had the words to describe it. There is another layer to this that most people never talk about, and it is called loss of control over personal space. For many people, home is the one place in the world where they feel completely safe. It is their territory, their rules, their environment. The outside world is unpredictable and exhausting, but home is controllable. When a guest arrives, that sense of control is immediately threatened. Now there is another person in your space, a person who might open the wrong cabinet, ask an uncomfortable question, stay longer than expected, or simply witness you in an unguarded moment. For people who are highly private or who have strong introvert tendencies, this is genuinely distressing. It is not rudeness. It is not antisocial behavior. It is the psychology of someone whose deepest sense of safety is tied to solitude and environmental control. Research in environmental psychology shows that personal space is not just physical. It is deeply emotional. When that space is entered, even by someone we like, it can trigger a stress response that feels completely out of proportion to the situation. And because the response feels disproportionate, many people feel ashamed of it. They think something is wrong with them, but nothing is wrong with them. Their nervous system is simply doing exactly what it was wired to do: protect the sanctuary. Let us also talk about perfectionism, because it plays an enormous role in guest panic. Perfectionists do not just want the house to be clean. They want it to be flawless. They do not just want the food to be good. They want it to be impressive. They do not just want the conversation to flow. They want it to be engaging, meaningful, and memorable. And because perfection is impossible, the anxiety never fully goes away. No matter how much they prepare, This is the cruel trap of perfectionism. The more you prepare, the more you notice what is still not ready. The more you fix, the more you find to fix. Your standards rise with your effort, and the finish line keeps moving further away. Perfectionism in the context of hosting is essentially a fear of exposure. The terrifying possibility that someone will see behind the carefully maintained image and find something ordinary, or worse, something messy, something real. And this is exhausting. People who experience this kind of anxiety often feel completely drained after a guest leaves, not because hosting is physically tiring, but because they spent the entire time managing an invisible performance, monitoring every reaction, interpreting every pause in conversation, wondering what every facial expression meant. That kind of hypervigilance burns through your energy like nothing else, and it leaves you dreading the next visit before the current one has even ended. Here is something that surprises most people when they first hear it. Guest panic is very often not about the specific person who is coming. It is about the meaning that person carries. A mother-in-law visit triggers a different kind of anxiety than a close friend visiting. A childhood friend you have not seen in years triggers different panic than a new colleague. A boss coming over triggers a completely different psychological storm than a cousin you grew up with. Each relationship carries a specific set of expectations, histories, and power dynamics, and your brain is running calculations on all of them simultaneously the moment you hear they are coming. With a mother-in-law, you might be managing the fear of not measuring up to her standards. With an old friend, you might be anxious about how much your life has or has not changed since you last met. With a boss, you are suddenly aware of every way your private life differs from your professional image. Same house, same host, completely different panic, depending on who is walking through the door. This is why telling someone with guest anxiety to just relax almost never works. Their brain is not running a simple calculation. It is running a deeply complex social and emotional simulation, and it is doing it at full speed, non-stop, from the moment they get that first message. There is also something worth mentioning about social media and the culture we live in today. We live in an era where everyone's home looks perfect online. Perfectly decorated living rooms, perfectly plated meals, perfectly curated gatherings where everyone is laughing and the lighting is golden, and nothing is out of place. And whether we realize it or not, these images set a standard in our minds, a standard that real life can never actually meet. So, when a guest is coming over, you are not just comparing your home to reality. You are unconsciously comparing it to the highlight reel of 100 other people's homes that you have absorbed over months and years of scrolling. And your home, your real home where real life happens, will always fall short of that impossible image. This adds a completely new layer of anxiety to something that was already psychologically loaded. And it is worth recognizing that this comparison is not fair, not accurate, and not something your grandparents ever had to deal with when having guests over. Now here is the part of the conversation that most people need to hear. All of this panic, all of this dread, all of this frantic preparation, it does not make you broken. It makes you human. But it does tell you something very important about yourself. It tells you that somewhere along the way, you learned that love is conditional, that acceptance must be earned, that you are only as welcome as your home is clean, your food is good, and your life looks put together. And that belief, that exhausting, painful belief, is worth examining closely. Because the people who genuinely love you are not coming to inspect your baseboards. They are not coming to evaluate your kitchen or score your cooking or take notes on how organized your shelves are. They are coming to see you, to spend time with you, to be in your presence. And the people who are coming to judge you were never really coming in love to begin with. The panic before a guest arrives is ultimately a story your brain tells you about your own worth. And like all stories, it can be examined, questioned, and slowly, with time, with awareness, and sometimes with the help of a good therapist, rewritten. So the next time you feel that panic rise in your chest when someone says they are coming over, try to pause for just a moment before you reach for the mop or start rearranging the furniture. Ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of here? What does this guest represent to me? What story am I telling myself about what their visit means about my value as a person? Because the anxiety is never really about the guest. It is always, always about you, about what you believe you deserve, about what you think you need to be before you are allowed to be seen, before you are allowed to take up space, before you are allowed to simply exist without performing. You deserve to be seen exactly as you are, messy home and all. That is the psychology of people who panic before every guest arrives. If this resonated with you, share it with someone in your life who needs to hear it, and drop a comment below. Do you experience this? What triggers it the most for you? Is it certain people? Or is it everyone? I read every single comment, and I will see you in the next one.